Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. In conversation right now about Kansas, okay? So Darrion Williams is a member of the North Carolina State Wolfpack. And I was thinking about this. What is it? Is it Newton, Sir Isaac Newton, the law of relativity? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Sorry, I wasn't a science guy. I wasn't great at science. But for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Well, the action is Darrion Williams committing to NC State. But the reaction is that everybody, including this guy, and by the way, I was not the only one, so don't say that Torres doesn't know what he's talking about, because everybody thought that that Darrion Williams was going to NC State. By the way, I was right. It was Sir Isaac Newton. Does Torres know his medieval science or what? But anyway, we all thought Darrion Williams was going to Kansas. He actually, I believe, visited Kansas, but NC State gets it done. And what was interesting about the timing, and I didn't put it together until Friday morning. Like I said, I was traveling. I was in the sports book. May have had an uncomfortable amount of money on Oklahoma City in that game. It was game 2 against Minnesota during that Darrion Williams situation. But Darrion Williams commits to NC State. We thought he was going to Kansas. Well, that happened within hours of Dame Sarr. Remember him? We talked about him last week as well. He's the 5-star kid from Italy, played in the Nike Hoop Summit. He was a guy that was another one. He visits Kansas. We're all assuming he goes to Kansas. All of a sudden, Duke is out on Cedric Coward. He's going to stay in the draft. Duke pivots. They get Dame Sarr. Darrion Williams goes to NC State. And two guys that we thought were going to Kansas both decide to go to other schools. And it is, I think, a touchstone moment in this offseason because it crystallizes something that I've been saying about Kansas really since the season ended. Now, I'm not Mr. Bill Self is terrible and he's the worst. No. Bill Self's a Hall of Famer. Bill Self has won 2 national championships. Bill Self, for about a 20-year period, I think you could argue, was the most consistently excellent coach in college basketball. The stats back it up. The Big 12 championships back it up. 2-time national champions back it up. But at the same time, in this portal era, in this NIL era, I don't believe any coach has had more trouble adjusting than Bill Self. And I think it was crystallized by the fact that they lost out on 2 key players in a 24-hour period, Dame Sarr to Duke, Darrion Williams to NC State. We thought at various points both were going to Kansas. Kansas gets neither. And I'll say this, outside of Darren Peterson, who we know is going to be a star, and outside of Flory Badunga, that roster looks pretty darn thin going into next year, and it speaks to what I'm saying. Not if Bill Self isn't a great coach, but does he get this NIL portal era? Now, a couple things I know what people are going to say right away. One, people are going to say, oh, well, Bill Self won a national championship in the NIL era. Well, that's factually correct, but it's not really. NIL came into place in 2021, okay, summer of 2021. Kansas won the following national championship. So technically it was in the NIL era. But as we all know, that first year of NIL is not what it is now, which is collectives, which is a ton of money, which is having a general manager, it's a different sport. 2, I will also say, because I know Kansas fans are going to say this part as well, well, Kansas signed the #1 portal class last year. And so it's like, I never said that Bill Self can't sign players out of the portal. But whether it's evaluation of players, whether it's getting fits to his system, whether it's whatever, it clearly didn't work last year. And I don't think you can solely blame it on the players. I don't think you can say that it's all AJ Storr, Rylan Griffin, all these guys' fault, because they were all highly ranked by every recruiting service that does portal rankings, including Aaron Torres Media. I had AJ Storr as the #1 player in the transfer portal. And so at a certain point, it does start with the guy at the top, and this is becoming a consistent thing. 3 seasons ago, so really 2 seasons ago, you get Hunter Dickinson, #1 team in the preseason. End up having a disappointing year, whatever. I don't even remember how that season ended. Then this past year, preseason #1, Hunter Dickinson comes back. DeJuan Harris is back. You have all the big portal additions. You have, again, AJ Storr, Rylan Griffin, David Coit, on and on. Excuse me. And you end up struggling. You end up finishing, what was it, 7th in the Big 12, something like that. You lose to Arizona in the Big 12 tournament. You lose to Arkansas in the NCAA tournament, and something just isn't right. And so to me, listen, I think it's kind of a perfect confluence of events, but I also just don't know if Bill Self, if the way he does things is right for this era. And that's not a negative. It's just a reality. One, Kansas fans will tell you, I think the X's and O's for the first time you can kind of question a little bit because he doesn't emphasize shooting. He doesn't, a lot of things that matter in college basketball, he doesn't seem to care very much about. You look at some of these teams in the Big 12 that are having success. Texas Tech shoots a ton of threes. Everybody on the team can shoot. BYU shoots a ton of threes. Basically, everybody on the team can shoot. Tommy Lloyd, obviously an offensive innovator at Gonzaga. Now he's at Arizona. They can score in bunches. And so how Bill Self coaches, not an emphasis on three-point shooting, but I think more than anything to me, I think it's roster building as well. I think it's a little bit of, I think he was just better in the previous era. And that's not a knock, it's just a reality. But I do think he was a guy that was best when he had players in his program 2, 3, 4 years, had him in the program, got him used to the system, got him adjusted, got him this, got him that. And then they would thrive in year 2, in year 3, in year 4. Christian Brown in the playoffs. Go back and look at Christian Brown highlights from his first year at Kansas versus the last year at Kansas when they won a national championship. Ochai Agbaji, Jalen Wilson. And I know Jalen Wilson was a transfer, but you get the point. Just feels like there's something lost in translation. I think part of it is it's just harder on both sides to keep guys in the program for that long, but it just is. And it's not always the player's fault either. I think a lot of times we always just assume that anytime a guy enters a portal, well, he doesn't want to play and he doesn't want to compete. He doesn't want to stay. But I also think there's something to a lot of these coaches sit there and say, well, I could get this guy now, but I got to kick this guy out. And they end up losing guys that would be good program players in a different era. So I could go on, but something just doesn't feel right with Kansas. And a couple things. One, like I said, this is a roster that is as unimpressive and underwhelming as any Kansas team I can remember. And I know by almost any other school standards, that's like Kansas's roster isn't terrible by, other school standards. It's terrible by Kansas standards, though. And I understand most schools would love to start with Darrion Peterson and work from there. But after you get to Darrion Peterson, after you get to Badunga, there's just not a ton that gets you really excited. And so I think it's interesting. I don't know about the staff. It feels like the staff is kind of playing out of that 2013 playbook that worked back then, but it isn't working now. I didn't love, by the way, remember, one of their longtime assistants, Norm Roberts, retired. Jock Vaughn gets hired as an assistant. That's a guy that comes straight from the NBA, no college background. And I just don't know if it's going to get better. But I think that moment on Thursday of last week, I think it crystallized. There's something just not right at Kansas. Kansas fans can deny. By the way, I think there's a lot of Kansas fans that aren't denying it. But I think there's Kansas fans that are denying it. Torres, you don't know what you're talking about. All I'm saying is back-to-back years, start number 1 in the country, you struggle. You get Darrion Peterson out of high school, but he was an Adidas kid. He was always going to an Adidas school, whatever. But this offseason, man, it's like, dude, think about some of the guys they missed on, some of the guys they didn't get. And it's like, I'm just looking at, all I'm saying is I'm looking at rosters. And right now, Houston's is better just in the Big 12. BYU is better. Arizona's better. Texas Tech is better. Iowa State's better. Kansas is like a top 20 team, but they're not the team that we're used to. I just think it's worth noting.